essentially embraces relationship as the way forward, as the saving way forward. And we see this clearly in one scene in the movie, where the Secret Service, the head of the Secret Service, says to Mandela, I need more people to take care of you. And so Mandela hires some more Secret Service agents to work with the head of Secret Service. And one day, there's a knock on the head of the Secret Service's door, and in walk these big, thick guys. But they're all white. And everyone else on the security team is black. And so the head of the Secret Service runs into Mandela's office and says, what are you doing? Who are these guys? He says, well, they're your new people. What's wrong? Well, they're white. And they worked for the previous administration. They were given orders to do violence to people in our movement. Probably given orders to kill you. And you're going to have them on your security team? And he says, we are the Rainbow Nation. Reconciliation must start here. And in essence, Mandela's trusting, he's placing in his bets that if you can put enemies in a room together long enough and get them to work with one another, that over time they'll start to respect each other and admire each other and reconcile. And that this can be one symbol among many of reconciliation to a nation. He's turning his back on violence as a way towards saving and instead embracing relationship. Another story that I've been thinking about, and this is not so much in relation to violence or hurt, but just our instinct to try to exert power over others to get our way instead of paying attention to another in relationship. I had a showdown with my daughter Ruthie this week. And Ruthie is the only one young enough to not know when I'm telling stories about her, so I have to get all my Ruthie stories out before she gets too old. But it was bedtime. It's way past bedtime, actually. And Claire and Simon were already in bed, but Ruthie's still up and running around, and she's tired and cranky and doing crazy stuff. And we have to get her to bed. Sarah's given up. She starts washing the dishes, but I scoop Ruthie up and say, okay, Ruthie, we've got to go to bed. It's time for bed. And Ruthie starts screaming, no, Mommy puts me to bed. Mommy puts me to bed. No, Ruthie, I pat her on the back. Just lay your head down. It's time for bed. I'll put you to bed. No, I'm not going to bed. No. So, Ruthie, let's go rock in the chair. We'll rock in the chair for a while. No, I'm not going to bed. We sit down in the chair. She changes her screaming a little bit. Daddy, read me a book. Read me a book. Daddy, read me a book. No, Ruthie, we don't have time to read a book. It's way past bedtime. Just put your thumb in. Lay your head on my shoulder. Let's go to... No, read me a book. Read me a book. And she starts squirming, trying to get down and get the book, and I squeeze tighter on her to hold her there, thinking that if I can just hang on, she'll get too tired and she'll go to sleep. And then I'll get what I want, which is peace and quiet and some rest. And so the more she squirms, the tighter I squeeze. And the more she squirms, and the tighter I squeeze. And we're fighting, and she's screaming, no, I want to read a book. I'm not going to bed. And this goes on for 5 minutes. For 5 minutes, we're going through this. And then a light bulb goes off in my head. This isn't working, I think. And so despite the fact that I've said 20 times, no, we're not going to read a book. No, we're not going to. We don't have time. No, I say, Ruthie, you want to read a book? And like a switch has been flipped, she stops crying and gets down, runs to grab a book, grabs the book, jumps up on my lap, puts her thumb in, lays in, quiet as a mouse, ready for the story. And we read the book, not a sniffle out of her. Once the story's done, Sarah's done washing dishes, she comes in, picks Ruthie up, and they go to bed. Now, will Ruthie run over me every time we try to go to sleep because I gave in to her? Well, it hasn't happened. And even if it did, I think that time that we had in relationship with one another will be more important in the long run than me making sure I had a strict bedtime for her. And what I found was that when there was response, when we started moving towards wholeness, is when I let go of what I needed and stopped trying to force it, and instead pay attention to her needs, what she was asking for in relationship. And then things started to work. So we're invited to let go of our need to exert power over others and instead pay attention to needs that are present in relationship and respond to those. That this is an arc for us, a way forward, a saving way. The other meaning in the story that I think is an arc for us is this promise that God is with us. God is with us no matter what is happening in creation or in our lives. So I hear this radio story this week as I'm heading back home from church about walruses in Alaska. They're on this beach in Alaska. There's wall-to-wall walruses on this beach in Alaska. And they've only been there for a couple years. They've never been there before. And scientists are studying these walruses, trying to figure out what's going on. And they realize that what's going on with these walruses is they're on this beach because normally they live on ice floes that are floating in the sea, and those ice floes have melted. They're gone. And so they found this beach as a place to be, to live. Normally, walruses at this time of year, the mothers will have their calves with them, but these mothers don't have any calves with them. They've lost them out at sea. And they're also realizing, these scientists, that being on this beach isn't sustainable. They'll overfish that area over the course of a few years. So I'm listening to this, and my heart is sinking, and I'm feeling despair, just thinking about all the various problems that are weighing on us. But when I hear this story, I have a glimmer of hope, and I hold on to that hope tightly. And whatever it is that leads our hearts to be despairing, or your hearts to be despairing, whether it's stories of violence or stories of the economy or the effects of the economy on your lives, or a health crisis or relationship crisis, whatever it leads your hearts to be despairing, I invite you to hear this promise of God too, that God is with us. God is in the depths of creation and our lives with us and won't go away, no matter how bad it gets. And this is what I believe, that God is not just out there, but God is here among us, that God is deep within us. And God is that power that brings some awareness in us of hurt that's going on in our neighbor, throughout the world, with the walruses, for Pete's sake. God is that power that brings up this sense of awareness and this thought in our head, things should be different. It shouldn't be like this. And as long as there's that thought in their head, there's a possibility that we'll come together and we'll serve one another. And we'll try to serve and respect creation too. As long as there is this rising awareness in us, this power that's bringing this awareness and this thought in us, and that power is never going away. That power is the power of God. It's never going away. That possibility will always be there, which means that hope is here. There is hope for us. And I hold on to that because God is present. And I invite you to do the same. God is with us. There's meaning in this story that is saving meaning for us, can be an arc for us. An invitation to turn from our instinct to hurt when we've been hurt, our instinct to exert power over others, when the way forward is to embrace relationship and to seek to serve the need of the other in relationship. To trust that God is present with us and will never go away, and that God invites us as well to be a part of the healing. May it be so. Amen.